Welcome, golf fans, pursuer of knowledge and the almighty dollar. This is your golf guru bringing you the 2021, the CJ Cup. And we are going to talk about the course. We're going to break down the players. We're going to do some direct head-to-head analysis. We're in a very unique, as mentioned on my first look, kind of situation with no event history. Very few PGA players that we know of have played this course to go off of. And so we are going to have to take a different tact and strategy to try to find the guys that we want to leverage and play. And so just real quickly, do some fast facts. If you missed my first look show, we are in Vegas due to COVID. This is not going to be played at Nine Bridges over in Korea. And so I think you probably already know that. So it's a back-to-back kind of weekend in Vegas. And this is a par 72. It is over 7,500 yards. Built in 1990. Was built by Steve Wynn. The architect was Tom Fazio. And then I believe about 10 years ago, well, it was pretty much after the recession in 2008 is when MGM bought it out. And they redesigned it again with Tom Fazio adding 300 yards. And previously, Tiger Woods and Fred Couples held the course record at 60. And note to self, after the redesign and adding the 300 yards, Dustin Johnson owns the course record, which is a 66. If you got to watch the match with Phil and Tiger back in November 2018, you got to see this is a beautiful course. It's a little bit reminds me of Augusta, like they ripped that out and literally dropped it in the middle of a flat desert. A bunch of pine trees, pretty giving fairways, but there is some creeks that run along these fairways. A lot of man-made water around these greens, a lot of deep sand bunkers. And from a green perspective, I've seen everything from about 5,000 square feet up to 8,000 square feet. So against tour average, I'm just going to say it's about average, but there is a lot of slope, and it is bent grass greens, Bermuda fairways. So from everything on that, I also, again, will put a link in the description that will give you a hole-by-hole play if you are interested to get a little better understanding of the course. All right, so moving along. So because we don't have the course history to build the model and to really understand all the key stat categories that we want to evaluate for this course, we have to be a little creative. And so from that perspective, if you do take the distance and you do take a par 72 and you do take bent grass, you can get about 6 or 7 courses pulling out of Fantasy National. And the main ones that I'm be looking at, I mean, there's Medina, there's Quail Hollow, there's Crooked Stick, there's the Masters. I believe there's the Country Club of Houston falls in those categories. But there were 7 courses that I was leveraging, and really what I was doing with the model is I kind of wanted to see the guys that we know that have been playing over the last few tournaments. Where did they show up? Because the top echelon, the Rahms, the Thompsons, the DJs, the guys that we know, Rory, that if you put them on any course and they're on, they're going to do well. So I'm not so concerned about those guys against these key categories that I did glean, and I'll talk a little bit about that, but how they would do on courses very similar. And so the areas that I did focus, the filters that I did put on, or the key categories that I weighted, I should say, of course, is the fairways gained off the tee approach, but also did, I wanted to look at, bogey avoidance versus birdies. There is a lot of par 3s that range from 150 to 200. There is one that I believe is about 240, 250, but the bulk of them, par 5s, there's 4 of them. So we need to have guys that can score on par 5s. Of course, par 4 scoring always dominates. And then the proximity ranges, when you're looking at those kind of par 4s, that doesn't fall too off between what these guys hit it on average 300. So you can kind of glean, okay, hey, for the approach shots, they're going to fall pretty much in these 2 buckets, 150 to 175 and 175 to 200. So that's what I looked at. And I did have some different guys that kept popping that have been playing. I think Bubba Watts is very interesting. Bubba's game, again, we mentioned Augusta, shot shaping, a really good short game. The putter has been erratic. But if he gets that on track, he could be good. I like Louis, Paul, Casey, and then Corey Connors. The guy is just, I think, is elite from tee to green. He's just a disaster when it comes to putting. So again, it's going to come down to that, and then Paul Casey. And then so that was ran looking at the past 12 rounds. And like I said, the difference, and you can see all these guys have played 12 rounds at these courses, except Corey Connors only had 10. But then when you take it to 36 rounds, again, on these same comp courses, under these same key categories, then you have some of the guys like Cantlay, who, falls a little low, even Rahm, funny enough. So, you're going to get some skewed information. But again, a lot of the same guys that I just mentioned were popping up. And then the last thing I wanted to see is, hey, let's just look at recent form, not looking at course comps, but just recent form over the past 36 rounds. So since the restart. And let's also just see where these guys pop up. And of course, no shocker that Matthew Wolff, who's been playing amazing, Victor popped up, but Casey and Finau and a few others. So just to give you some ideas, looking at the same key categories, but not on a comp course, where's recent format with these guys? So that being said, there's that information that we could glean, and I didn't want to put a ton of stock into that. I think I just was more interesting to understand from a comp course perspective and looking at the guys that have been playing, how they would fit, in the gleam of what we know about this course. But what I thought would be more interesting is to really look at the no-cut events, because this is the elite field. This is a no-cut, 78 players, invite only. You're getting like the top 60 FedEx. You're getting like the top 5, Asian, top 1 Japan. So you're getting very similar feels to the WGCs, which there's 4 of those. There's also the Century of Tournament of Champions. As you see, the CJ Cup, which technically is, been played at 9 bridges. You got the Tour Championship in the FedEx at the end of the FedEx, and you got the BMW Championship, in the middle of the FedEx. So what I want to do is let's take a look at the no-cut events. Let's see how these guys do. And I really want to focus on the guys at the top. And so what I did is using Fantasy National, did some head-to-head and looked at just the tournaments with no cut. And I wanted to see, just because I think the hardest part, is going to be how do we whittle down the 9K range up to the 11K range, because a lot of these guys, on any given day can be, the winner. And so this is one way of doing it. I'm not saying this is end all be all. I'm saying, we got to get a little creative. And so this, for my purposes and for your information, there might be some things we can glean out of this. So if you put Rahm, the 2 most expensive guys at the 11K above range, I think one's 11.8, one's 11.5. And put those 2 guys against each other in all no-cut events. And so what this is looking at is when they both played in a no-cut event, head-to-head, who would have won? I was pretty actually shocked that DJ actually came out 31 wins to 16 against Rahm. So if you're trying to figure out, do I play DJ? Do I play Rahm? Also, if you think, again, DJ has played this course, and he's one of the very few that I know for a fact that has played this course and shot well. If you're trying to lean one way or the other, hopefully this might help answer that question. And then if you go down to the next tier, all the guys at the 10K range, you got the JTs and Rory. So I put those guys against each other, same thing, in a no-cut only events that they played. Who comes out on top? Rory wins in that head-up match. So then I took and I said, okay, well, let's see Rory against Xander. And actually it was pretty close. And we all know typically Xander in these big events, so the majors and WGCs, does well. But Rory still eked him out by 3 wins. So, I moved down and I said, okay, well, even though Matthew Wolff doesn't have the history at no-cut events that a Rory does, but they have played both in 12 no-cut events together. And even with recent form, Rory still doubles him up 8-4 in the events that Wolff and him have both played in that are no-cut. And then so out of that, I took Rory versus DJ and just wanted to see where that would fare out. And it was pretty close. They played 89 no-cut events, and out of those, DJ got them by 3 wins. But also, I think it was just very telling that. And I look at, there was the time with Rory where, to get motivated, right? And then the baby. But if you look at his past history, just over the last few tournaments, and I'm just trying to pull it up here. He had a really good showing at the U.S. Open, where she finished 8th. He had an 8th at the Tournament of Championships, a 12th at the BMW, and then a 65th at Northern Trust, where that you could kind of see that. I feel like his game has been coming on form and coming online. So I'm going to be playing both these guys at the studs level, which you'll see. Then also, I thought it'd be interesting to do the same thing. The head-to-head for the big three, the rookies, Morikawa, Wolff, and Hovland, to see how they would fare out. Again, looking at just no-cut events. If you look, Wolff just eked out Victor Hovland, which I was a little shocked. But then when you take Wolff against Morikawa beats him by 3. And if you take Morikawa against Hovland, he's beating him by 7. So out of these 3 guys in a no-cut event, Morikawa, wins hands down on that. Now, again, I'm not saying, that who's the better player here. If you looked at just very recent form, Wolff would win hands down. But if you gleam over the life of all 3 of these careers and no-cut events, Morikawa comes out on top. And then, as I mentioned, the tricky range, I think, is around the 9,000 range and up. And so I wanted to do the same thing with these guys. And so I took the whole 9,000 range from, and you can see all the players below. That included Mats, Hovland, Koepka, Morikawa, Fleetwood. And so I'll give you kind of my gleam on this. I did run them all against each other, and I wanted to see, and I pulled out the ones that I thought were the most prevalent. Koepka was technically leading all these guys until, funny enough, when you put him against Morikawa, in the 13 events that they've played in no cut, Morikawa actually beats them 8-5. And that's interesting because if you think about it, right, Koepka's game over the span has been better than, Finau, Hideki. And I ran against them all. Cantlay, actually did pretty well too, but against Koepka, he lost. But if you take the recent past year, where Colin's been playing in these no-cut events, Koepka's game, due to the knee, has not been up to par. And so if you look at this field, I just did I looked through the whole field and did analysis on the whole field because there's only 78 guys, and quickly was able to just go through and understand who does well on bent. I looked at their quick past history and just started to make some my own, deductions. And so I take Fleetwood, Hatton, and Berger. And for sure, Hatton and Fleetwood. And I'm nixing them because they, as you know, they just played in the BMWP. They're kind of players champion for Euro. They just played that, and Hatton won it. And Fleetwood had a good showing there. But making that travel back, I don't think it's a good fit. I think Fleetwood's game is not where it's been. So I'm kind of nixing Fleetwood and Hatton right there. Koepka coming on his first tournament back since the injury. He was so up and down depending, where he had, it was a second place at the WGC event and then, have miscuts. I'm staying away from Koepka. Hovland hasn't played in a bit. I'm not saying that's not a reason to play him, but I like the guys that have had some, form, because if you even look at Scheffler, who had a few weeks off and then came back, he's been struggling. It does, to keep playing at this level. I do have a firm belief that, you need to keep playing. Not it has to be you don't have to be Sungjae Im, but if you take 3 to 4 weeks off, that is going to affect your game. There is going to be some rust. I don't care how much you've been at the range, playing at a PGA level. I think it's going to show. So, anyways, it gives you kind of a good understanding at the Niacan range. Finau, we still don't have an update. I mean, he's listed right now on DraftKings and everything. I can see that he's going to play, but also what I knew is that he needed 2 tests that show that he's, has 2 negative tests, and I don't know if that's been done or not. Now, so right now, do I think Finau would be a live play here? Yes, but I just don't know if he's playing, so I'm not doing a whole lot of focus on him. All right, so let's get into my stud plays. So DJ, we already talked a little bit about him. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. We already know, amazing recent form, but he hasn't played in a few weeks, but has played this course, shot a 66, holds the course record. Again, that's stated as, how many other PGA pros have played it. And it kind of interesting. I saw there was a quote from Wayne Gretzky who played here, which of course, is his wife's dad. So his father-in-law. And so, I'm curious if they play together. But, yeah. Anyways, DJ is a definite play for me here. Schauffele, this guy just kills it whenever he gets in majors and WGC. So there's just no way I couldn't play him. And he also, on bent grass, gains about a quarter stroke. So I like that. He had a 5th at the U.S. Open last time we saw him. He was 2nd at the Tour Championship. I believe he would have won it outright if you take away the stroke thing. And then a 25th at BMW and a 25th at Northern Trust. So great recent form. Loves WGC big events. And like I said, if you looked at when I did the head-to-head against Rory, he just barely lost there. So going with Xander, we already know Rory. As I already kind of talked about him, he did well in the head-to-head at the no cuts, and I think his game is forming with the 8th at the U.S. Open, an 8th at the Tour Championship, a 12th at BMW, a 65th at Northern Trust was his weak side, and bent greens, he's neutral. And what's been hampering Rory is the putter, but the putter seems like it has, at least last time we saw him, was looking pretty decent. There's no way that, you can't roster Matthew Wolff. Again, this guy is just right now in fuego, just had that playoff he just lost. He ended up 2nd at the U.S. Open next to Bryson, a 16th at the BMW, a 44 place at the Northern Trust. So playing some Wolff. And like I said, I'm not going into the chalk versus not chalk and pivot plays so much this time because, you got a field of 78 and it's going to be chalky. It's just, where's the good chalk? And these guys, I'll eat the chalk with these guys. And then Morikawa, I think, is interesting. I'm going to stick with him. I know that he's had 2 missed cuts in a row, but if you break down those missed cuts, first it's a U.S. Open, right? And that was just tough all around. Except for DeChambeau is the only one that shot under. And then you just had the Shriners, and he lives in Vegas, been sleeping in his own bed. He's played golf recently. He missed the Shriners, I believe it was by a stroke. I think he came 5 or 6 under off the top of my head. And also bent is his only positive putting surface. So I'm going to stick with Morikawa. Hopefully maybe I'll gain a little leverage on the field that people would be jumping off of him due to, the recent 2 missed cuts. So that's my top 5 stud plays. And I believe this is going to be a studs and duds. You're getting all guys, everyone you pick is going to get 4 rounds unless they, pull a Kevin Na or something on you where they just bail out halfway through. And then my mid-range guys, you could kind of see Bubba Watson was popping up on a lot of the models. And, that's part of it why I'm playing. But his game has been trending. He hasn't played since the U.S. Open. But, he had a 31st there, a 16th at the BMW, an 18th at Northern Trust, and a 71st at the PGA. But, with the finishes I've seen, recent form's been, he's been hitting the ball well off the tee approach. Funny enough, the putter is what's been kind of hurting him, and bent grass is a bit, of a negative for him surface. But I'm going with it. I like the way he's been playing, and I think again from everything I could glean from this course, I think it sets up well. There's a lot of dogleg lefts, rights. You have to do some shot shaping here, and so I think he'll fit well here, just like he does at Augusta. The next is Louis Oosthuizen. Again, he just played in the Shriners, had a 19th. Kind of sneakily, had a 19th finish. He was 3rd at the U.S. Open, 25th at BMW, 13th at North. So he's been in great form. He is a big game hunter, and this is a big game event as far as I'm concerned. So I'm looking forward. He's been here in Vegas, so he hasn't been traveling. He didn't go back over to play in the BMW Championship. So yeah, I like some Louis. Then Sungjae Im also has sneakily been just getting better and better. I mean, he just had a 13th at Shriners. 28 at Sanderson Farms, a 22nd at the U.S. Open, 11th at the Tour Championship. So he was, they put, I would say, Rory and him in the bucket of just the guys that struggled the most from the shutdown. But since then, his game's been back to form. Everything looks good. The putter let him down at Sanderson Farms, or he would have had a better finish. So I like Sungjae. And then Paul Casey. Again, he had a miscut at the Shriners, but he shot 5 under, just, wasn't like he went out and shot plus. He had a 17th at the U.S. Open, a 16th at the BMW, a 2nd at the PGA. Don't forget about that. Runner-up finish at the PGA at a very, not the easiest course in the world at Harding Park. And just, again, crazy accurate length off the tee. Amazing iron player if he can get the putter going. And he is a positive on bent greens. So that's a good thing. And so I'm liking Paul Casey. And then Brendan Todd, the Todd father, this guy's just steady. You know, he hasn't played since the U.S. Open, but he had a 23rd there, 20th at the Tour Championship, 8th at the BMW, and he gains over a half a stroke on bent grass. So that was what really stuck out to me. So, you know, I'm going to stick with, while it's working, I'm going to stick with Brendan Todd. And again, these guys are all around the high sevens, low eights play. And then my duds, I don't want to call them my duds, but I don't even call them my sleepers. But the guys at the lower end that I think can help you. You know, you're going to have to play these guys. You know, Lanto. It was kind of funny because I always put Lanto and Munoz kind of similar. I feel like they kind of both burst on the scene when they both started having you know, solid rounds, and so you know, I actually ran those guys head to head, and Lanto actually wins if you take all the tournaments they've ever played. But if you take them against no-cut events, Munoz actually won by one win. But whenever I see Lanto under 7,000, he always 10Xs his value, and you're going to get 4 rounds out of him. But I think Munoz and Lanto would be a good play, either one. But I'm going to go ahead and, you know, I'm going with Lanto. He did have a miscut at the Shriners, just, again, barely did shoot under, but, you know, didn't shoot the 7 under or better. 43rd at the U.S. Open, 18th at the Tour Championship, a 10th at the BMW. So, and, you know, he is just barely positive when it comes to putting on bent greens. And then you got Mackenzie Hughes. We haven't seen him since the Corrales, but he had a 3rd place finish. You know, amazing putter. We know that. He did have a miscut at the U.S. Open, but he had a 14th place finish at the Tour Championship and a 10th at BMW. So, you know, he has played since the U.S. Open and had a good finish. So I like that. Bent grass is a neutral putting surface for him, so you know nothing really stood out there. But down in this area, I'm gonna stick with Mac Hughes. Siwoo Kim, who I don't usually tout a whole lot, but his game, you know, has been having a lot of sparks of life. You know, an 8th finish at the Shriners, he 37th at Sanders Farm. He did have a miscut at the U.S. Open, but a 44th at Safeway. But his game is just, he's had some real strengths. And it's looking better. And the guy, ball striking has always been elite. It's typically been the putter. So, and bent grass is just barely negative for Sanjay. Or I'm sorry, for Siwoo Kim. And then I mentioned Corey Connors. He was kind of popping on that model. Always exceptional tee to green. It's just all comes down to the putter. You know, he had a 17th at Sanderson Farm, so he did play there. He did miscut at the Corrales, and he had a miscut at the U.S. Open. But, you know, I like his game here, and it's just all going to come down to the putter with him. And then Kevin Kisner, why Kevin stood out to me. I'm just pulling up. Yeah. So Kevin gains a half stroke when he plays on bent grass. So that was the first thing. And, you know, he did have a miscut at the U.S. Open. But if you remove that, he was 23rd at the Tour Championship, which isn't great, right? That's a field of 30. But at 25th at the BMW, which I believe is a field of 70. He was 4th at the Northern Trust and a 3rd at Wyndham. But he hasn't played since the U.S. Open, at least in any of the recent tournaments. So, you know, I'm going to take a flyer on him. The guy's a bit of a bulldog. And also in big events, he does show up. So I'm going to go ahead and have some Kevin Kisner. And that's it. So we had to get a unique. It's a little different way that I've done this show compared to usually. Usually it's all about, here's the chalky guys. Who can we pivot to? You know, how can we gain leverage on the field? I just don't think it's, you know, we're going to be able to really do that a whole much. So it was really just, hey, let's try to find the best of the best out of this field at each level. And that's what I tried to glean for you. So, hey, we got to have a better week than last week, and all the best for the CJ Cup. I will do a little bit more analysis and have a few hidden gems that will come out. And then any other news that breaks, if Finau comes out or anything else that I find out, I will share tomorrow. That'd be a very quick little video, but hope this helps. And again, I would really greatly appreciate it if you are enjoying what I'm providing. Please like, share it with whoever you think might also like it, and subscribe so you can get all the latest and greatest. All the best, and have a great CJ Cup.